Hey guys, Gate here with the Matrix Hacking Raid Guide, where we fight the 4.0 world boss in an 8-player raid format. This boss brings a new set of mechanics that will test your team's coordination, but if you don't trust anyone but yourself and you're sweaty enough, the raid is perfectly clearable on your own with 2 devices as shown by this dude on CN. For everyone else, make sure to share this video with your group to get everyone on the same page and save yourself from modding as usual. Let's jump right in. Formation Point Sphere Alpha Test Type, or the boss from here on out, has several mechanics that require precise execution. We'll first break down its main mechanics and then do a quick walkthrough of the raid phase by phase. Let's start with the explanation of raid mechanics. Number 1. Current regulation. Players randomly obtain either a positive or negative charge as indicated by the plus or minus symbol on your character, not to be confused with the benediction symbol on top of your head. When the boss is in human form, it will periodically apply a noise signal to 2 players with opposite charges, indicated by the red circle AoE marker. The noise signal will cause the player to release an AoE after a 3-second countdown, dealing damage to all nearby players with the opposite charge. After the noise signal disappears, an energy link will appear between the marked players. When the boss is in sphere form, it will periodically apply an energy link directly to 2 players with opposite charges and then randomly apply a noise signal to 2 other eligible players. Number 2. Anomaly calibration. When in human form, the boss will periodically release an anomaly calibration. After a 10-second charge, it'll deal damage to all players with the opposite charge of the boss. During the boss's charge, yellow data blocks will scatter around the field. These data blocks can be attacked multiple times or destroyed by players that were marked by the red AoE. Destroying a yellow data block grants nearby players immunity to anomaly calibration damage, indicated by the red shield surrounding your character. Number 3. Energy Link. When the energy link is present, it can deal damage based on the boss's maximum health when it passes through the boss. So make sure the 2 players that are connected drag the link across the boss, as this is your main source of damage for a free-to-play mechanics only team. Data correction. When the boss is in ball form, large blue data packets will periodically appear on the field. These data packets can be attacked multiple times or again destroyed by the randomly targeted red AoEs. When destroyed, they generate small blue data blocks nearby. These small blue data blocks can only be damaged by the boss rolling into it. When destroyed by the boss's attacks, they then reflect damage back to the boss. If the boss has the previous debuff from the energy link, it'll also stop its actions and enter a brief vulnerable state, allowing it to take more damage. Good for whales trying to speedrun and set leaderboard records. Number 5. Overload attack. When the human form boss is about to switch forms, it moves to the center of the field to charge. After charging, it'll nuke the field and deal damage to all players. During the charge, 3 clones will sequentially activate at the edges of the field. Each activated clone will target a random player and roll at them. If the clone rolls into the boss instead, it'll deal damage to the boss and 1 layer of the boss's defense shield will be removed. When all the boss's defense shields are removed, the boss's explosion will be cancelled and it will enter a vulnerable state. The boss will also create firewalls to block the clones, which can be destroyed after a certain number of hits. Number 6. Route Overload. When the ball form boss is about to switch forms, it moves to the center of the field and continuously releases multiple rounds of energy shocks. During this time, 4 energy emitters with positive or negative charges will appear on each side of the boss. Players with the opposite charge must approach the emitters, causing them to overload and shoot a laser that damages the boss and removes a layer of its shield. When all the boss's shields are removed, the boss returns to human form. These mechanics sound really complicated on paper, but let's break them down phase by phase to make them easier to understand. Phase 0, Prep Phase. Right as you get into the boss arena, spread out a bit and stand still and your support players apply Brevi and Fiona links. Don't just Leroy Jenkins into the boss unless you all know what you're doing, and wait for your main tank to aggro and start the boss. This is the perfect time to pay attention to a randomly assigned charge symbol on your character. This will not change for the entirety of the raid, so just remember it. Let the Benediction Icarus teammate do the initial 8% chunk and start the fight. Phase 1, Human Phase. The boss starts in its human form, where players need to handle the red AoEs and the energy link. Even though the red AoEs only damage players when they're opposite charge, you just stay away from others. Red AoE equals bad for other players, is all you should remember, so make sure everyone spreads out. Those with the red circles should pre-position themselves across the boss, as the energy link spawns right after, so you can immediately do damage to the boss. When the boss stands still and starts charging and glowing yellow, pay attention to the charge on the top of its head. And be ready to move over to the yellow data blocks if you have the opposite charge and destroy them to get a red shield to prevent damage. Or you can just all move to the yellow data packets. It doesn't hurt to get the shield anyways, even if you have the same charge as the boss. Moving on to phase 2, ball transformation phase. After a while, the boss will go to the center and transform to ball form. During this transformation, you want to have the 3 randomly selected players guide clones to crash into the boss by moving behind the boss. You'll know that you're selected if the red indicator follows you. Everyone else, go to the center and break down the blue firewalls. 2 Fiona discharges in the middle will break all the walls easily. Just make sure to not be next to the boss when the clones roll in, as you will die to the crash AoE. Phase 3, Ball Phase. After the transformation, the boss will roll around and target the main tank. Everyone else should attack the large blue data packets with multi-hit AoE weapons, aka Fiona Discharge, or the red AoE. Tanks should then guide the boss to roll into the smaller packets to reflect damage back onto the boss. Players with the energy link should cross the boss as usual. Phase 4, Human Transformation. The boss moves to the center again, and this time will emit shockwaves that you should be able to jump over. Players with the opposite charge of the emitters need to quickly run to their nearest opposite charged energy emitters to fire lasers at the boss. This stops the shockwaves and prevent massive team damage. And that's all you need to know about the raid. Now that we know how to clear this raid, here are some roles and team recommendations. You want 1 main tank. You'll be drawing aggro from the boss with a taunt weapon like Saki or Mimi and trying to stay alive. Your main job is to lure the boss into the small blue data blocks during the ball phase. Just note that a high investment Mimi with her electric fence on Fortitude Resonance might block the boss and grief the raid, so Saki is preferred here just to be safe. Ideal weapon comp would be Saki, Asuka, Fiona, where Fiona is just for her multi-hit discharge. 1 more person to do mechanics when the rest of your team is Pepega. Besides the main tank, you want 7 healers or mechanic lures. Your job here is to keep the main tank healed up and alive while staying alive yourself and doing all the boss mechanics described above. And things like the Icarus initial chunk, Fiona execute, Fiona discharge multi-hit, and team-wide damage blocking, Brevi healing aura, fast Lyra punches, etc. All healers should be using Fiona for her discharge and use other weapons according to the rest of your team. Those without Fiona can grab any AoE multi-hit weapon like Nyan for example, and just do the mechanics. Optional DPS. For speedrun purposes only, just Unga Bunga DPS the boss while paying attention to the must-do mechanics. Optional damage support. For speedrun purposes only, figure it out with your tryhard team. Ine debuff, Shiro 1-star damage buff, Fiona cage chaining, stacking space-time rifts, using multiple Coco Matrices sets at different stars for stackable buffs, etc. Some closing tips. 1. Always remember what charge you are, positive or negative, and just stay alert for mechanics. This raid can be cleared as long as one of each charged player is still alive, so don't bother quitting and giving up so soon. But if you do notice that all the alive players are of the same charge, then you should just quit and reset, since the raid mechanics won't trigger when there's only positive or negative players left. Number 2. Fiona, Fiona, Fiona. This whole raid is all about Fiona. Just always keep a Fiona discharge ready at all times, and this raid should be easy clap. Fiona sub-skills should be Torrent to keep charge up, and Vortex for more hits. Cage can also be used to pin the boss down for speedrun purposes. And that's it for the ball raid guide. Hopefully this helps you and your team in getting that raid clear. If you find any other tips or tricks, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to get everyone educated and save yourself from unnecessary molding.